Hi everyone, Chris here. Just letting you know that while this episode is absolutely outstanding, there may be a little bit of background commentary. We did have a bit of a dog problem for the first half of the episode, so just beware. There's a little bit of dog noise in the background, but apart from that, enjoy the episode. That was week number 7.
Of the Great British Bake Off.
Indeed it was. I am still Chris.
I'm still Christy.
And this is The Washing Up. And we decided we were going to, get someone on again, but we've had a few guests rotate through, and it was time to get someone new.
Yes.
And it was time to get someone we really desperately wanted to get on. So with that in mind, I think there's only one way to do this, don't you?
Yes.
1, 2, 3. Jeremy's on the podcast today. Hey, Jeremy.
Hey, Chris. Hey, Christy. How you doing?
Oh, we're great. There's been a lot of excitement building up to getting you on, actually. So.
Really? Oh, that's good.
Oh, we're thrilled. We're thrilled to have you. We've been looking forward to being able to have a chat with you for a while. So this works out really well. And I think, as you might have noticed, we noticed when we were watching it, there's a lot of stuff you cooked appearing on this episode. There's pina coladas.
There's duckwaz.
There's duckwaz. So
I nailed that duckwa, didn't I?
Oh yeah. Oh, nailed. It was to the wall. So
it was like the side of the Holy Crucifixion. Was that nailed?
Well done. I love your references. Your references are great. No, so it was. I think it was an interesting week to have you on. Now, the first thing I noticed was dessert week.
Yes.
It's Bake Off. Isn't every week sort of dessert week?
Well, bread week's not dessert week.
No, especially when it's burgers.
No, I don't. No, I'm not a big fan of the bread week. So
no, we know. I was trying not to bring that up.
Oh God, what did they do that for?
I was trying not to bring that up, but
come on, I traumatize you.
But let's talk desserts.
Yes,
well, indeed. I think we should
go back to a happier place.
I think we should.
Yeah, that's right.
So they decided to begin with the family-sized roulade, or again, we later on. I mean, I don't want to raise it because you weren't there for the Swiss roll, but
that's two things.
Oh, Chris, you're just digging my hole, mate.
I am, aren't I? No, because we
will never come on the podcast again.
Because we balance it up by the fact that basically Benjamina stole your whole concept of the pina colada.
Yeah, I think she was watching the Great Australian Bake Off Season 2 and thought, you know what, I can do that.
She looked at the ombre cake and just went, you know what, I can do that but rolled.
Yeah, you know what she was missing though? Yeah. A pineapple topper.
The one that could be a hat.
Yeah, would have been perfect.
She even had like the bonus where she could have stuck the top at one end and the bottom of the pineapple at the other, just to like.
That's right. And just do like a vertical sort of roulade.
Oh, if you don't open your own sort of bakery where you feature a vertical roulade, now you're not trying hard enough as far as I'm concerned.
I think Monica might have the
vertical roulade.
The vertical roulade top.
Right,
it's a very Mon kind of thing, isn't it? So
all them delicious bakes, you're just bringing me all back now.
Oh, that's what we aim to do. We aim to bring people back to tasty delights. And I liked what Andrew did in terms of the orange stripes and to demonstrate to people first of all that it was orange.
That was really impressive, though.
It looked quite good. I mean, granted, a few of them didn't turn.
The presentations were like on point.
Yeah, well, it was very on point.
They were like Sweary Canary's jumper game.
Very much like Sweary Canary's jumper game.
Yeah, that's right.
And Andrew, though, he's very precise. I mean, again, his background.
Engineering.
He's an engineer, so everything's ultra precise, and we see that later on when we go back later on and have a look at the duckwa. He's very precise. Everything's measured. Everything's very structured.
You wouldn't want to be getting into bed with him now, would you?
It's very, very measured and precise.
Now
we'll leave that one to the side. But he's a lot like Antonio, very precise. He knows what to do. He's very, very clean.
Hey, the other thing was he managed to later on, again we get to the duckwa, he managed to crack his meringue and hide it. And Paul Hollywood didn't find it.
No, and they were really impressed with what he did.
How does Paul Hollywood not find the fact you've broken something in a challenge? That was incredible.
You can just expect him to just be over your shoulder, just going, I saw that.
Yeah, you just wait. Hollywood walks up and I sense a disturbance in the force.
He just pops up behind the counter. rises
I just
up.
heard that crack. From
Yes, I heard that. But there were a couple of things that I noticed in the start of this, whereas Selassie still doesn't look fussed at all.
He's just one-handedly
Yeah.
beating.
Like he's mixing things one-handedly, looking around the tent. He doesn't really care.
Yeah, Selassie's like my brother from another mother. He's like, he's just got it going on. He's just got that cool look about him.
It was incredible. He does this every week. What he does is he just sort of, he's completely nonplussed. He doesn't remotely seem to be worried about anything.
Often takes naps in front of the oven while he's waiting for things to
And
bake.
there was one, there was a scene later on when he did the mint and it was all falling apart. And even then, he didn't really look stressed. He just sort of went, oh, well, it's falling apart. I'll just put it on I shouldn't have done that better. Oh, well, puts it on the tray.
Yeah.
He was obviously
He
going
doesn't
for
make a big deal about it.
No, he doesn't.
He was obviously going for quantity, not quality.
He wouldn't work on a show like MasterChef. He couldn't do a MasterChef because they need him to panic.
He'd need to ball.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so
That's
he'd just sort of he'd be too calm. And I liked where Mary Berry basically turned around and told him, "You've got the right idea now. Don't screw it up with the using the butter in the mixture." Because everyone else isn't using the butter, and she's like, "That'll make it extra pliable. So hopefully you'll get a really good outcome," which is code for, "You've got it right. Don't mess it up."
So outside of the tent, Jeremy, have you cooked a roulade?
I have cooked a few roulades. Not too many sort of in my time, but I have done the old roulade before, yeah.
I've served up a few. When I've had to do morning teas at work, I've gone and, gotten the jam sponge roll.
Yeah.
Does that count?
That will count. It's as
Does that
close as
count?
I'll get.
I've eaten a couple.
Well, I had to practice it for my, obviously, episode 6.
Yeah.
So I actually did it a few times for that. First time, yeah, it was a bit how you going, but tasted the goods, as I do.
Just close your eyes and
I hope.
Good.
But now, you didn't ever consider, for example, putting shortbread in the middle of a sponge, did you?
No, I was so surprised that he did that. That was Tom with his millionaire.
Yeah, and I love that Paul just looked at him and went, should be interesting. And they finally called him on it too. Normally when he says, could be interesting, they just let it hang. And when he said, this should be interesting, Mel stopped him and went, when you say interesting, Paul? And what he meant was ridiculously dense.
That's right.
And incredibly chewy.
With Matt, it was a bit easier to tell what he thought was stupid.
Yeah. He doesn't hide it, no.
He has a very clear what the fuck face, doesn't he? Like,
it's perfect.
sorry,
Yeah,
people.
he does.
Yes,
What do you
don't
mean?
He lifts
cheer.
the eyebrows.
apologising
and
for
goes,
whispering.
okay, I'm listening.
But Paul Hollywood, what's one of the things we love about Paul Hollywood is the way that he just sort of leaves you hanging. Like again, our favorite Hollywoodism is where he turns around and he goes, it could be good, or it could be disastrous, and walks away because he said absolutely nothing.
Laugh.
He's just said absolutely nothing to you, and you spend the next half an hour questioning your very existence. Forget cooking.
He just likes to drop an existential bomb in the tent.
Yeah, it's like, am I a person? Am I human? Am I here? Am I here?
Am I the flower? Am I the egg?
And he did a couple of those in this episode, mainly to Tom. Poor Tom.
Yeah,
that's
right.
And my other favourite moment of when they're going around to the benches was when they went to Benjamina's, and Benjamina knows the way to Mary's heart. Because Benjamina turned around and told everyone, I'm cooking it with a bit of rum.
And Mary gave her a little wink.
And you got a Mary Berry wink, which Mary likes a tipple. And this keeps our run up. I'm always worried every week somebody has to bake with booze. And it's, again, Mary Berry...
It's one of our favourite things to do, though.
Yeah, well, Mary Berry loves it. So Mary Berry loves booze in everything. And it's almost like the running joke of the series is that everyone has to cook with booze so that Mary Berry can wink at them. And so that's it was good to see a good Mary Berry wink. And, of course, Benjamina was making your pina colada in homage to your ombre cake.
That's right.
That's the whole purpose of it. Speaking of homages...
Yes.
Andrew
Yes.
continued his homage, and by homage, I mean,
The
Andrew...
family recipe book.
The family recipe book. I don't think Andrew has an original recipe.
See, every single week, Jeremy, he cooks either his dad's recipe, occasionally something from his mum, but that's very rare, occasionally something from his gran, but mostly from his dad. I have a feeling his dad's like Gordon Ramsay or Massimo Bottura or someone.
Yeah, it's like, again, twice in this first challenge, not in the episode, in the first challenge, he's using his dad's recipe, first of all, to do the sponge. Then he uses his dad's recipe later on to do the curd. Why didn't he just send his dad into the tent?
Yeah, he should have just had him over his shoulder, like just standing next to Paul Hollywood going, "Nah, mate, too much."
No. Now, you're going to judge my son well on this, aren't you? You know, he's an engineer.
Don't let the family down, son.
He's an engineer.
Yeah.
I liked the confidence of a Jane who looked like she knew what she was doing.
Yeah, you're right.
Even if Paul Hollywood disagreed, and I won't lie, I disagreed with Paul Hollywood on that one, where he complained about the way that she'd rolled up her roulade and said she'd rolled it the wrong way.
It's all really. I guess it's just a matter of how you like your slice of cake, really, isn't it?
Personal
because
preference.
if you like a really tall one, you'd go the horizontal roll.
Yeah.
And if you'd like a bit smaller one, you'd go the vertical.
Well, that's what Jane's comment was, that you get a bigger piece of cake.
And also, you think about it, if you want to feed more people, you'd roll your cake that way. And who does she have to feed?
Right.
She's got a whole cast and crew sitting there.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
She's thinking of the cast and crew.
She is. She's going, we need...
No. She's thinking of the best boy on set and going, that best
key
boy,
grip.
that best boy and key grip need feeding.
Yes.
But no, like, again, that I found that it's interesting to see what they sometimes zoom in on, and Paul really zoned in really hard on this idea of she's rolled it the wrong way, and I'm like, was it still a roll? Did you still actually see a roll? You saw a roll? Well, good. It was roll.
Because a roll's a roll and a toll's a toll.
So
Yeah, that's right.
now, Candace was brave insofar as she decided to roll hers directly in front of Mary Berry. I wouldn't have done that.
Confidence in that.
I wouldn't have done that. I would have just asked Mary to turn around for a minute.
It was like she was back behind the bar, because Candace is from a pub family, and she was just like serving up pints, but instead she's just like flipping over sponges, like, take that.
Yeah, it was where she before she did the roll, where she took the sponge out and just went plop and dropped it down, and Mary Berry just looked at her and went, "That was confident."
But you know what?
Yeah, that's right.
This actually calls into question their spot judgments, because she's gone, oh, that looks really good, and given Candace this beautiful, like, boost, and then they've cut into it when she's finished it, and it's like, oh, it's a bit dense. Oh, it's a bit overdone. It's like, oh, just like lift her up and then rip out her heart.
Yeah, I know, but I think, how they sort of focus on the fact that she was, she had it in the oven for about 15 to 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And everyone was saying, 9s, 10s and 12s. And they did really focus on that. So, I mean, maybe that's one of the reasons why they sort of like set you up to, wait a minute, why is she doing that long?
Well, the interesting thing for me as well is that, I mean, I know for a fact they test the ovens in British Bake Off every morning. They actually bake a Genovese sponge every morning in every oven,
and then they cook it every show.
They do it.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, and then in this episode, they cook it in every challenge. But it's interesting. I mean, the amount of Genovese sponge that must be bombing around that set is incredible.
Yeah.
Because, again, every single oven, that's the testing bake every morning to make sure the oven temperature is the right temperature, is they make a Genovese sponge every morning. And
I think what they're doing is they're trying to cut costs and have smoko.
I think that's quite possibly what's actually happening. And again, with the amount of Genovese that they made, I'm assuming this week they were running low on budget because they were about to move to Channel 4, and so they've had to, the BBC's going, no more money, so they've pre-made the Genovese sponges, then got everyone, you're making Genovese sponge. Now, what we'll do is we'll cut away, and when we'll cut back, there'll be this Genovese sponge on your table. Don't worry about it, right? We cooked it beforehand. It's the tester. Yeah. So, now in the judging of them, I thought Candace's looked amazing. Tom turning around and going, I need to get mine to look neat, and poor Tom, but he had no hope. there was no chance that was going to look neat. It just looked like he was pouring spack filler on it.
It looked
it seemed like he was sinking sort of in his own position. And you get that like impending feeling like, I'm going to have a crap day.
Yeah, it looks like a licorice bullet that had gone wrong.
Yeah, it was a melting licorice bullet.
It's like the licorice bullet you find when you're cleaning out your car after a long trip somewhere. You're like, did we actually have licorice bullets on the journey?
I don't remember having bullets, but this seems to be one.
Yes.
And I loved them when poor Hollywood turned around to Tom when judging and pointed at the cover and went, "What's that hiding?" And my answer immediately was, a hell of a lot. Because it was falling apart. It was sort of wedged together. Not only had it cracked, it had split. It hadn't really been rolled properly. And again, they brought up the point with this, and I agreed with them, was the point of the whole challenge is you need to actually see the roll.
Yes.
And
because a roll's a roll.
What he did was cover the roll completely, so you couldn't see the element that actually made it the challenge.
Maybe
you're right.
It's kind of a problem.
Surprise roll.
Surprise roll. It's not a roll. When is a roll not a roll?
What is this? It's the what's it called? Schrodinger's roll.
It was like that first cut and seeing how it comes off.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and when they cut it, there was just this look from Paul of, okay, now I know what you were hiding. Selassie and Benjamina did quite well on the first challenge. Candace's was one of the weaker ones, but I think Tom sort of covered a lot of things there. And I loved the back and forth with Selassie serving his on a photo frame. And and is it a bit unstable on the curve when Mary Berry went, it's called originality, and Mel goes, it's called a photo frame. And then Mary goes, oh, I don't know about that. And Selassie goes, yes, it's a photo frame.
Did you ever consider bringing in something strange like that to serve one of your bakes on, Jeremy?
I didn't bring much in because I didn't have a lot. I've got a lot of sort of, I don't know, small boards at home, but nothing really flashy. I needed that flashy look. So
you need a Ferris wheel.
I got was from the back shelf of the bake-off shed.
You didn't go with Liv to the toy store to pick up like a little junk set? Or
no activity sets? Or
No, I didn't have that sort of budget, really.
didn't have the Liv budget. Again, you needed one of Andrew's Ferris wheels. That's all you needed.
What we need to do is do a Kickstarter to buy you some activity sets to help decorate your bakes.
I swear that Andrew almost puts more effort into what he's putting it on than what he's actually making.
He's insane. But then again, there are some people who just head home and will do stuff like that. Like, I've got a friend of mine who you'll, call her up and, you're sitting there watching, not you, but me. I'm sitting there watching some crappy reality TV show, and you call her up, see what she's doing. She's like, oh, well, I just picked this up from reverse garbage, and she's, MacGyvering, wire into jewellery / a fancy dress outfit from old, bits and pieces she has from around the house or something she found in bulk somewhere.
And meanwhile, there's Selassie using a photo frame.
He's got it to the $2 shop.
Do you guys reckon I should have brought my welding kit in and just made something?
I think an homage to, some of the great American movies, Flashdance homage.
Oh.
What a feeling. Now, we move from that to the technical. Now, the technical, it was a fairly nondescript technical until they got to the assembly bit. Mm-hmm. Now, again, it was Marjolaine, or as we all call it, a duckwaz.
It was a duckwaz.
Yeah, not even a choir. It's a duckwaz. As both us and of course, homage to our brothers and sisters over at the Cooling Rack. And in the duckwaz challenge, I loved when Tom turns around and goes, so fingers crossed that I totally haven't messed this up, as it cracks. As it breaks, he's like, fingers crossed I haven't messed this up. It's like, that's the description of what messing it up is.
But what I loved was his Ormy Plums moment in the promo at the beginning, when they're going, and tonight's technical is all about nuts, and then you have Tom, this pained expression on his face. It's like, oh, me plums.
So, I mean, with the, and again, not to raise up, memories necessarily of making one.
Go gentle.
I'm going gentle, but as you've done of the three of us here, you're the one person who's done this as a challenge. How tricky is it?
Well, I didn't know what I was making. A lot of the times in the technical breaks, I'm like, what is it again? What am I making? And what does it look like? Unfortunately, we couldn't have our phones, so I couldn't Google it. So, but yeah, look, it's a bit of a suck it and see in regards to something that people haven't baked before. Like we were fortunately that we were all really, really, really close. And I was like, hey, James, what does this look like? And he's like, he's still been going, oh yeah, I've done one of these before, and I'm like, sweet, thanks. And bugger off. But
come on, tell us the truth. You did what
Antonio that I was getting a lot of that information from.
Yeah, I was about to say, tell us the truth. You did what everyone did. You leaned over and went, Antonio, what is this?
Antonio for 2 minutes and go, okay, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah. Hey, everyone, follow Antonio. What you should have done is you get Antonio put at the front bench, and then everyone behind him, just like an exam, looking over his shoulder, mimic him, everything he does. It's a follow me challenge.
Just casually strolling by to get some item from the pantry.
Hey, Antonio, look over there.
But yeah, touching on that again, like, it just really sort of brings home how close we all really actually were, because I don't get the same sort of feel from the bakers in the Great British Bake Off season 7 as obviously I did with my bakers.
No.
Because I feel so close to them, and it was generally sad every time someone went home. And
yeah, and there's a bit more personality shone through in the Australian one, and in the British one, it's not just British reserved. It just seems like there's occasional moments here and there, but then they just all sort of blend back into, like, in Australia you had very clear personalities, and they were personalities that blended beautifully. And you see occasional moments. There was one point where Jane was screwing up one of her things, and she turns around and she has time, and Tom's screwing something up, and she came over and put a hand on his shoulder and went, come on, you can do this, you can do this. They're little moments like that, but they're very fleeting. Whereas with the Australian one, it was consistent. Everyone was chatting, and everyone was, as I said, the quietest I've ever heard it was when they had the staggered souffle challenge in the final, where Liv's in there by herself. And as I said to Liv at one point, how did you cope? It's you by yourself with no one to talk to. And Liv, that's hard.
Yeah.
That's tough for Liv. So it was an interesting.
I think it's what I've noticed, and I don't know if it's an editor's choice, but in like the Australian one, there's lots of like pre-baking or as you're setting up kind of interaction, whereas the Great British Bake Off, there's none of that, and it is all about if there's a crisis, they'll come and help someone, or if they just going to taste something. Like if you see Benjamina rock up and have a little lick of Selassie's cream.
You've been waiting to use that line.
I have.
So it was really interesting in terms of the way that they all sort of approached the challenge, and it was very mundane and fairly straightforward all the way through.
Yeah, that's right.
I did notice that everywhere they talk about how precise Andrew is, but I also noticed that every week he's got one of those blue Band-Aids on, which means he's cut himself. So he can't be that precise.
Maybe he's just punching himself and he's not.
Every week he's got one of those I've cut myself Band-Aids on.
How many of those did you get to
It's not hard to cut yourself with the sharpness of a knife. My God, I can cut cold butter just like swiping it. It's just amazing.
Oh.
Okay, so for my birthday this year, I'll take a set of those knives. If everyone can chip in, that'd be great.
Chris wants knives because Kickstarter.
I want knives that can cut cold butter.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You go, can I have the kind of knives that cut cold butter, please? And all right, we'll get them.
Yeah, we'll get those ones.
They're
ones.
like open up a vault, have to walk downstairs.
And for this challenge, one of my favourite lines actually came from Sue Perkins when Andrew turns around and says it's like a Viennetta but posher, and Sue goes, "How can you get posher than a Viennetta?"
I'm just imagining in England, the Queen sitting down to dinner, all of her royal family there, and she goes, bring forth the Viennetta.
The Royal Viennetta.
The Royal Viennetta.
Do you think the Queen would be having the normal Viennetta, or would she be splashing out on the chocolate one?
Look, I think it depends on if she has the young ones there or not. She likes traditional, but if the young ones are there, she might splash out and have both.
You know, the range of your characters are so deep.
It's like a middle-aged, overweight, awesome woman has walked out the door and the Queen's walked in. That's what it's like.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I for a moment there, I thought you were gone, and
I know, you're like, oh.
No.
so
Okay, back in the tent.
back in the tent, and we come back at the tent at a perfect moment of the judging where Mary Berry commented on Selassie's and said, "It's a little bit drunk." If anyone would understand, that would be Mary Berry. If anyone would get that, Mary Berry would be the one that gets that.
Yes.
So
Good judge of where the alcohol's gone.
So not getting the distinctive layers, not getting as clean as the others, a little chewy. Now, if you heard that as a judge, what you'd be saying to yourself in being judged, what you'd be saying is the judges are going, "What is this crap?" Tom heard all three.
Oh.
Yeah.
All three of them. So
His heart must have sank at that point.
Oh, that would have been the end for him. I don't know. I don't know how he really came back from that. What I have noticed is that Candace nails all the challenges that require precision. She did really well.
Yeah.
And Andrews was just
Phenomenal.
flavour one. And also in particular for Andrew, what we found out was that, you know, he does have that extra level of precision, even though, you know, apparently cut his finger off.
Yeah.
So
It's probably what gave his duckwa the better flavour. Just a little bit of blood.
Bit of him in it.
a bit of Andrew in every single part of. There's a bit of Andrew in every part of the bake. I think so, definitely. A
Every bake I make is a little bit of me in it.
little bit of me.
Literally, a little bit of me in it.
Literally, yeah.
Perfect. Okay. What biggest heat wave they've had
I'm
in
surprised
generations.
they didn't have the slip and slide set up outside the tent with Mary Berry and Paul.
They had to find one
sunscreen,
first.
baby.
They had to find one first in the UK. Now, unfortunately, you know, we're here to talk about, you know, great recipes and outstanding originality, and the first thing that comes up in the mini mousse cake challenge is Andrew goes, "So I'm using my Gran's chocolate cake recipe." And
Yeah.
once again, does he have an original recipe in him?
Maybe not.
I don't know.
I did
Every
like
week.
his ideas, though. His ideas with the childhood ice cream, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was good. His idea was great, and the Ferris wheel was incredible.
And I love that.
Yeah.
I love how he came in with a concept. You know, he had a story behind it, which, as we find with all the good bakers, like in any of the bake-off shows, is if they've got a story behind it, you know it's going to have a lot of love in that bake.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
if it's a good story and if it's a story that has a lot of meaning, it works quite well.
Yeah.
You know, when you want to build an oversized camel that goes too big to be even near the Sphinx or the pyramids, it goes well. When you build the Perth Bell Tower, I'm so in love with that Perth Bell Tower still to this day.
I know. You know what? It tasted so good. Like, oh my god,
It looked
Yeah.
incredible.
it was just amazing. Like the ginger that James had in his biscuit, or the ginger crackling, I think
Yeah.
it was. But it was just he's just got such a skill to just like make whatever he wants. Obviously, it didn't hold up in the end, but you know what? He's got to be proud of himself.
I still maintain he should have just made the whacker. You know.
Bit of green jelly or desiccated coconut dyed
Again,
green.
we could have gone back to the Women's Weekly Cookbook for the grass. And again, we could have had bullets there for the stumps. You know, we could have made pylons out of gingerbread. It was a lost opportunity, I'm telling you now. Or King Park. He could have just made a whole pile of trees in rolling hills.
But going back to the showstopper, the blackberry that Candace did, they look really, really nice.
Uh-huh.
But unfortunately, they didn't turn out very well.
Candace is very up and down in terms of what she does looks amazing.
Yeah.
The flavours can be hit or miss. And you saw this.
Yeah.
She did an incredible job in the technical really good job in the technical. And then the first challenge was a bit meh, and the last one, the flavours were all over the place. She ranges from, when she's brilliant, she is spectacularly brilliant.
Yeah.
But she misses a lot too. She's a tough one to read, Candice.
But she has beautiful concepts as well. Like, she comes in with great concepts, and that's something that comes through even when she's just like, her mousse is melting everywhere. But everyone's mousse was melting. That's why I didn't think it was fair. It's like when they did Chocolate Week and it was like bloody hot as well. It's like, oh no, it was humid. It was pouring down with rain. And as I think it was Liv, it was
Liv talking about tempering and stuff like that.
Tempering that the humidity could really interfere with it.
Was it the? No, it was the when they were trying to make the meringues. They were whipping it up. Yeah, we're talking about, because some of them went up and some didn't, and it was talking about why do they fall, and we're talking about temperature and humidity with Liv.
Humidity can kill them.
Exactly. So it was interesting to see, like, Jane last week attempted a cake with a collar, which failed miserably.
A chocolate collar.
So this week she decided to attempt, cakes with a little fleur-de-lis within them as well.
That looked really nice, though. How good did they look?
It was brave. I mean, it was either brave or foolish. If she didn't pull it off, it's foolish, because
she was the little engine that could. She went, you know what? That collar, it's in the past. I'm going to give this a go, and it turned out bang on.
And then she did five different mousse.
Yes.
So the fact that she did 5 different ones was incredible.
Amazing, yeah.
And
definitely amazing. The chocolate, coffee, and vanilla combination too was just sounds amazing.
Looked brilliant, and she did 5, and she did all 5 amazingly well. And that was the thing. It wasn't like she sort of did them half-assed and didn't quite get them right. She blitzed them, and Paul Hollywood was loving, especially that coffee one. He really loved that coffee one. We'll come back to Tom. We'll come back to Tom because I want to go through. Tom's needs a big breakdown. It needs a really interesting breakdown.
When you say hipster picnic, you sort of need to break it down.
Yeah, in my original notes when I was writing my notes down, all I wrote down when he said hipster picnic was he must go home now. He
bye-bye.
He'd done it. The second he said hipster picnic, but I thought a couple of interesting things before we come back to Tom is, because we're coming back to Tom. First of all is when Mary Berry explained how the freezer worked to Selassie. That was a wonderful moment where she's like, he said, I'm going to put them in the freezer to chill them. And she goes, the freezer is good because it's very, very cold. And if you put them in the freezer, they'll cool a little bit faster than if you leave them out or put them in the fridge. And I'm thinking, they're going, he knows how a freezer works, Mary. He's the one who said he's putting it in there.
He's like, oh, damn, I was going to cook it in the freezer.
I thought I was baking. Just occasional moments. And then Candice decided that she was going to win Mary Berry over by Prosecco and raspberry liqueur. And you can just see Mary's face light up with the prospect of, I'm getting drunk again, which was wonderful.
That wink happened again. Whoa, yeah.
Yeah, that wink's permanent. Whenever someone mentions booze, it's a tick. Actually, I think she might have a problem. It's serious. And Jane went all sweary canary in terms of the amount of stuff that she attempted when under pressure. Because, much like Sweary Canary when she was under pressure decided to make 12 signs of the Chinese zodiac, and I'm over that. I'm over that.
Leave it.
I'm over it. But, Jane's under pressure, didn't have a good week last week, had occasional up and down moments this week, and
5 mousses.
Responded with five mousse.
Is it 5 mousses or 5 mice?
Delicious is the answer. It's just delicious.
Play on words.
Yeah.
Let's just go with delicious.
Delicious.
And I think that the other one was the moment where Selassie commented on the flavours when Andrew found out that Andrew was doing mint as well, and where Selassie looked at the camera deadpan and just went, well, Andrew's doing mint too. It'll be interesting to see who gets the flavour right, which was almost like Selassie does not care for your baking. Selassie has no time for this.
He's like, I'm taking the challenge and I will beat you.
Yes, I will beat you. Now,
although he didn't, but
no, he didn't, and we have to. Speaking of people that didn't beat other people, we have to go back to Tom.
Yeah.
Now, Tom was, star baker last week, but Tom, a bit like Candice, has either been brilliant or hopeless. There's been no middle ground with Tom. He's either destroyed the challenge and been amazing at it, or he's presented something that's put him in the bottom group and he's come very close to being eliminated a few times as well. And, I mean...
It was the worst week to get the Star Baker curse, though, because he got it last week and you're down to the final 6 and you're up against Jane, who's pretty bloody consistent, Andrew, who's, like, precise, Selassie, who cruises through anything.
It's almost like he was next to Sweary Canary in the tent.
I know.
Because, speaking of curses, the curse of Sweary Canary in the tent, it's a bit like the British Star Baker curse is very real.
It is.
Very
Is it
real.
really? Is it consistent?
It's been very consistent in terms of there's been Star Bakers being bumped off left, right and centre. And it's at the very least, if they're not eliminated, they're really close to it. There's been a couple of times where someone's 1-star baker, like Candace 1-star baker for her pub. She made a gingerbread pub, and it's the most outstanding thing we've seen. It was absolutely brilliant, right down to she did the pool table with, a jelly pool table and a sticky toffee carpet. Recreated this full...
I've got to watch that one.
Recreated it's her parents' pub, and she recreated the full thing with someone behind the bar and everything. It's amazing. And the next week, she was nearly eliminated. She bombed all over the place. It was very close.
You know what? With the Bake Off, I think with all Bake Offs, no matter what country you're in, if you're inconsistent, like I was a few times, you just won't make it through. And like I think episode 2, I was really close to sort of going with the biscuits. I think I did all right, but like
it was the pizza thing. We're not going to bring that up. We won't bring that up.
Look, I'll just say I think Shapes has already done the pizza biscuit. It's all good.
Arnott's were pressuring you for copyright infringement.
I say it with love because like I really enjoyed watching you on Bake Off, Jeremy. One, because it let me sing the song every time you were doing something and annoy Chris.
And by the way, that wasn't just a podcast thing. That was just every time you appeared on screen. There would be whatever you were doing on the screen would become a song. And
I wish I got the opportunity to just sing it.
It just we just carried it over.
See, when you do your own show, you can have that. Like you can do that thing. Like you just like Ainsley Harris had his little Harriet had his like little shimmy. You can have like the Jeremy's cooking. Something.
Mate, I might miss the millennials though. They might just go straight over the head.
To be fair, I think you'll miss the millennials no matter what you do.
Unless
I'm a teacher. I can say that I miss millennials all the time.
Just call something a hipster picnic.
Yeah, just call it a little hipster picnic, and they'll come. Oh, no, they won't come running to it. Yeah. They'll indifferently look at it.
Yeah,
they'll look at it with a sense of indifference.
I'll have a man bun and I'll get him going.
some designer stubble and a man bun.
I don't know.
And away you go.
Just get Antonio as your advisor.
Translator. He can translate to the hipsters.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
He could. So poor Tom. It began when they talked about Benjamina's concept, and he goes, "I think on paper our concepts sound the same, except she'll do a better job of it than I will." So Tom knew from the start he was in trouble.
He's really going in with a great mindset.
And then he said that I'm calling it the hipsters' picnic. And as I said, at that point he had to leave. He shouldn't have kept going. And then when they're going to pipe the mousse, and he goes, "I'm going to pipe this mousse," and Paul Hollywood looks at him and went, "What?" And he goes, "I think you're going to struggle." And Tom's response was, "Yeah, me too." So then why are you piping mousse? You know it's going to be bad. And Paul Hollywood's gone, "Yeah, not a good idea." And you go, "Yeah, no, it's not a good idea, you're right, but I'm going to do it."
But at the same time, do you notice that Andrew piped his in as well?
Yeah, he was piping something in, but I think it was, I wasn't sure if it was the mousse or if it was on top of the mousse. I wasn't sure.
I'm not sure. I'm trying to think of the colour because it was really bright colours.
Yeah, I don't think it was his mousse.
He had the pink.
I don't think it was.
He had green, didn't he, as well?
Yeah, he had some mint as well. I don't think he piped his mousse. I think he was piping something around it, but because Andrew's mousse had the right consistency, whereas they said the problem with the piping the mousse was it takes the air out of it completely.
What it looks like was my friend's mum's duck. What's it called? Mock duck. I don't know if you have ever heard of that. It's from the 70s. and it's really delicious, but it's really badly made. You know the cheese. You know the blue box of cheese that you can get on a shelf, the Kraft cheese.
Yes.
The box cheese.
Oh, yeah.
The Kraft cheddar box cheese.
It's like basically that melted down with like onion and all these like kind of spices and stuff like that, and it's used as like a sandwich filling, and it's really nice, but it's just so wrong, and it looked exactly like that. So
See, I just thought he got like Perkins paste sort of and spread it between two bits of wholemeal bread, which was just sadness all around, really.
Yeah.
It just looks sad.
or what my grandmother would have called
Lunch, exactly. And
But poor Tom, I think he knew it was coming, to be quite honest.
well, the other thing that gives you a clue is that Tom, when he's about to pipe the mousse, turned around to the camera and said, "This is where it usually all goes wrong." I'm like, so let me get this straight. You've done this many times, and it always goes wrong. So you've never got it right. Paul Hollywood says it's a bad idea. You agree with Paul Hollywood this is a bad idea. You know you're fighting for your existence in the bake-off tent, and you're going, you know what? This seems good.
Yes, it's like being...
Yeah, that's the point you change up and go, you know what? I need to re-establish what I'm doing here, and I need to go back to the drawing board and try something different.
Just make a basic chocolate mousse.
Yeah, just something else. You need to just try something else.
Unless Tom was bored in the tent and was like, I'm going home. I'm just going to... Let's pipe it.
His girlfriend...
Let's pipe it.
His girlfriend came back from the States, and he's like, yeah...
You know what it was?
Girlfriend.
They need to go back to the movies again and
Eat them. What's that thing called?
I don't know. We did it last week. In the bread week, there was one of the challenges where they had to make a special like a focaccia bread, and no one had ever heard of this before except for Tom, for whom it was his movie snack.
I'm just Googling it because it's hilarious.
He was taking a herbed focaccia bread to the movies, and I'm there going like, you've heard of popcorn, right? Popcorn exists. It's not just
Fugasse.
Fugasse. That's right. It was the Fugasse.
You know what you do? You put popcorn on ice cream.
Oh,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yes, you do.
See,
smart man. This is smart man.
I used to work at this little independent cinema, right? And because we had to make our own choc tops and stuff, we would make some pretty awesome things. So you'd get like peanut M&Ms, and then you'd put them inside popcorn, and then drizzle like the choc top icing over the top and let it set, and then you'd eat that. And then you'd like
Amazing.
Yeah, and you'd stuff popcorn and lollies in the base of cones. The patrons couldn't have it because that needed like warnings and stuff. But
The patrons needed warnings.
yeah,
Nice. But it was really interesting. I would have just gone back and done something really basic at that point. When I know I'm in a lot of trouble, I'd just be really basic.
or go with the same idea and just don't bloody pipe it, and just change the shape of your sponge. What do you call this, love? Sponge cake.
Sponge cake.
You stuff on top the mousse.
So when it went to the judging, what I found that was interesting was pretty much everyone did one that was good and one that wasn't.
Pretty much.
Yeah, it's pretty sort of similar across the board there. The only sort of, I guess, consistency was Andrew in the precision.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that was sort of it. I mean, Selassie was saved by the passion fruit ones.
Benjamina's all like were either looked good and tasted good, or at least tasted good, like her mousse cake.
Yeah, like again, when they tasted them, they looked at the first ones and they're falling apart, and they're like, these look horrible, and then they had to keep eating them. And it's very rare you see Mary Berry turn around and go, I'm going back in.
Yes.
And Mary's the one who went back in first, and Paul's like,
I'm with
okay,
you.
well, if you're going back in, I'm following.
Yeah.
Benjamina's flavours are always amazing. And a presentation...
She's got such a good sort of compass for the right sort of flavour combination, doesn't she?
Yeah, I mean, it was the first week we haven't seen lime. We saw coconut. We didn't see any lime. There's
No
been
lime.
lime and coconut every week. And this week's the first week there was coconut, no lime.
They used it too much for their midnight margaritas.
Yeah, must have been the way. We got pineapple instead. We got
did.
pineapple.
They actually ran out of limes in
The
England.
UK. Yeah, the UK ran out of limes. There's no limes left in the country. Go like, give us a week.
Boris Johnson had midnight margaritas.
Boris Johnson's drinking, yeah. Now, what I liked was when Mary Berry was trying to be really nice to Tom with the judging, And he puts them down and she looks at them and goes, that was a very original idea.
Yes.
Like, that could be taken either way. I took it as nobody else would be silly enough to do this.
Or be pig-headed to keep with it.
Yeah. I mean, and as you said, Jeremy, the Andrews was superb. That wheel, I mean, I know it's about the eating, and they said they tasted really good too, but that wheel...
But apparently his mate knocked up that wheel. Like, what mate can you go around to and go, so I've got to serve these cakes on a TV show and I just need a couple of Ferris wheels? And the mate goes, all right, let's do that.
I don't have that many people...
I can do that for you, John.
Sweet.
I think, I was about to say, we all need a mate we can ring to knock us up a Ferris wheel.
If I ever go on a baking show and you're in the clear, Jeremy, I will hit you up for that.
Hit me up with that one.
Done.
But you know, I always do things big, so literally it's going to be the size of the shed.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, like life-size.
Think of the cake. Think of the cakes you could present on that.
Yeah.
Oh, this is good. Forget the great Australian bake-off.
A big slice? No, dude, like, that's a slice.
Forget the great Australian bake-off. It's the big Australian bake-off, where the idea is you just make the biggest cake you can possibly make. All Genovese sponge, of course, because
or Rice Krispie treats.
Or Rice Krispie treats, because that's what you do when you make a cake bigger than a normal-sized cake. Is you cheat, as we've seen in American TV shows. So
that's right.
Yeah, they cheat. They just make a really basic vanilla cake and Rice Krispie treats.
Sculpt with fondant.
Their version of Bake Off would be really boring.
I can sculpt with fondant. Sculpt.
America's version of Bake Off would be really, really boring. It would just be vanilla cake with Rice Krispie treats and fondant.
Or apple pie.
It'd be horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they'd be just too competitive with each other. They'd probably throw a knife at one each other.
Yeah, you're right. And it'd be hosted by someone who just had no...
No, it'd be hosted by Bobby Flay.
Oh, God.
Yeah, Bobby Flay.
Bobby Flay'd have to be hosting it.
And they'd have two horrible, bad comedians doing the Mel and Sue / Mel and Claire role. Just
you need a Mel.
You'd have Kathy Griffin.
You need a Mel.
You need a Mel. In all series, you just need a Mel.
Yeah.
And you pair them with somebody, but you need a Mel.
Who do they have in America?
Two people I haven't really got a hold of since I left. I mean, I'm following on Facebook like Claire and Mel, but just everyone really.
Yeah, every Bake Off show, I think it's in the contract. One of the hosts must be called Mel.
It'll be Melania Trump.
Melania Trump. Oh no. She's reading from Michelle Obama's notes.
Yes. I have a joke here. I wrote it myself. It is about a cake.
This is about my husband called Barack. I mean, no. So
it's Barack.
Yeah, it's Barack. It's Barry. He's great, huge. So from that episode there, I mean, what was your sort of takeaway from the week overall?
Well, all of them sort of really have skill. I mean, I didn't see much of Tom previously in the other episodes, but I'd assume he has got the talent. But all of them sort of really have different sort of flavour ideas. The only sort of similarity was the chocolate in a few chocolate ones in the signature, and the peppermint or the mint sort of mousse in the showstopper.
Yes.
So all of them sort of had a lot of different ideas. They're all presented really well, I thought. A lot of them sort of just really brought their A game, and obviously Andrew came through with the goods. But I loved Benjamina. Her who she is, her character, like her persona, is just amazing. She's just like, yeah, that's what I do, sweet as. She just doesn't really. I love that. Just sort of just go with it, sort of person.
Yeah, she rolls. She rolls with whatever she's doing.
She just rolls with it, and just get to know everyone on the show. There, it's just it's really good. Like you can see, a lot of personalities sort of come through. Not as strong as us, but
he doesn't know Val.
Yeah, they definitely come through.
Yeah, no, he definitely needs to. Yeah.
You need to start at the beginning of this series and meet Val. She's like everyone's nana.
Val prompted a very long-winded yelling fit from me in one podcast episode in particular. So you need to meet Val. Val to give you an idea. Our theory on Val, well, my theory on Val, is that Val wandered into the tent by accident and was on a bus trip probably from the local care nursing home and
Wow.
walked into the tent completely by accident, and some poor guy was bundled back onto the bus and taken back, and Val's just making it up as she goes along. And the interplay with Paul Hollywood as the series went along with those two was incredible. By the end of it, Paul wasn't questioning like her baking, it was just her general well-being.
But the most amazing thing is she also listens to her bakes.
Yes, just like Noel. Exactly like
really?
Noel. She listens to... I said, I put forward this idea. I'm hoping Lifestyle run with it. It was listen to your bakes, and it was Noel, and it was Val, and they go on a world tour just putting their ears to ovens. It's the whole show.
Wow.
It's the whole show.
I'll have to do some backtracking and get to meet her.
Yeah. I think that Noel and Val would put together one of the greatest cooking shows we've ever seen.
Yes, the dance-offs would be spectacular.
Yeah, she dances while she's cooking too. So
wow.
It was perfect. It's like you could pair them up for a show and it would be amazing. So yeah, make sure you backtrack and check that out. But thank you for watching the episode for us in particular, because we really just wanted to get a chance to have a chat to you.
Thank you for the invite.
We've been
really good to sort of feel wanted on your show. It's just, as you know, all of us bakers just really, we all talk all the time still, and we love it. We love the inception sort of idea that you guys have after the cooling rack. Is just fantastic.
Yeah, no, it's been great to be able to get to chat to you guys, especially, and sort of, have sort of these more in-depth conversations with you, because I mean the socials was brilliant during the show, but yeah, this is sort of next level.
It's not. It's like it's kind of really cool because we're just big fans of like Bake Off and cooking shows, and to have the opportunity to like talk to bakers and stuff is really cool. Like I was like squealing on the way home in the car, going, "I gotta talk to Jeremy." And
yeah, when I made mention that we'd teed this up, there was a lot of excitement.
Yes.
Because I didn't mention that I'd teed this up until we basically teed this up. So I'm good like that.
I really do appreciate it, guys. It's been real great to chat to you.
Indeed, thank you very much. So again, I've been Chris.
I've been Christy.
That's been Jeremy. And we will catch you all later. Bye.
Bye.
This podcast brought to you by
Jez's Creative Bakes.
So, yeah, Jeremy, little side business going on here. And I think you need to look it up. Where can they find it?
On Facebook. I've got my Facebook page up there. Do all sorts of creative desserts and cakes.
Yummo.
Okay, so if you need to find out Jez's Creative Bakes on Facebook. This is our proud podcast sponsor for the day.
Indeed.
We've got one finally. Woo! Yay, victory.